Welcome back to A Book Binger. Are you guys ready for season 2? I had so many listeners on season 1. I am very, very thankful for you guys. And I'm hoping with season 2, we can add even a few more listeners. I have a lot of really awesome things to talk about today. Some books I've read over the summer, some recommendations I have for you guys, and some books I actually didn't really like. So with all of this said, let's get started. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, you guys. One of the first books that I have read this summer was All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This book won a Pulitzer Prize. Anthony Doerr, he spent 10 years creating this book, and it is absolutely worth every minute of that. He has so much detail, and his characters are so astounding that it makes sense it took him this long to write. It's a World War I historical fiction, so it is absolutely heartbreaking, but it is beautiful. And I think what makes it so beautiful is that there are these two characters that come from two completely different places. Obviously, in World War I, there's so many different countries coming together, and these two characters, their stories are being told in two different areas. And then it's amazing how beautiful the ending is. So if you're looking for a beachy, whimsical, feel-good book, I wouldn't recommend reading this one quite yet, but definitely put it on your shelf. It is so worth the read. It's heart-wrenching, it's sad, but it's so good. I've actually recommended it to a few of my friends already, and they've reported back that they've read it and they've loved it. So please, 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 All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, it needs to be on your shelf right now. I can't express that enough. And it's going to become a limited series on Netflix soon. I believe it's supposed to be coming out either the end of this year or beginning of next. So read it before that comes out, because we all know the books are better. Even when they adapt it, the books are better. Another book that I have been reading is The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. Now, this book I'm not finished with yet. I'm almost halfway, but I have already recommended it to a few friends because this book is awesome. It's a thicker book. I believe, let's see how many pages here. It is 545. So not one of the bigger books, but it's definitely big on itself. So I haven't gotten all the way through yet because I made the mistake of picking up another book while I was reading this one. I usually don't do that. I try to put all of my attention into one book at a time, but The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton is amazing. It has the two-person view again. So just like All the Light We Cannot See, it talks about two different characters, this grandmother and the granddaughter, but with the same plot. They have this intertwining mystery kind of, and it talks about their journeys with it. So good. My mother recommended it to me, and I have been chipping away at it. I did, when I first picked it up though, I was reading it nonstop. And then another book of my series came out from the library, so I had to go get that one. But I will definitely be picking this one back up very soon. it's definitely a read that I recommend for you guys. The Forgotten Garden by Kate Morton. If with the third time me saying it, you haven't forgotten. um, One that I just recently got too from my library was recommended to me. It's Early Morning Riser by Katherine Heine. Heine, I'm not really sure. I've never read any of her books before, but the person who recommended this book to me said that I would like it because I am a huge Gilmore Girls fan. I can't even explain. Gilmore Girls is in my blood. And I'm sure, recently this year, I found that there are so many people who like it. I have been watching Gilmore Girls since the DVDs. We had the complete set. We would pop it into our portable DVD player and watch it all the time. I'm telling you, I love Gilmore Girls. So this person said that this one had that feel for it. I haven't read the synopsis. I haven't even looked up what it is. So I am going to actually read the blurb with you guys. Jane falls in love with Duncan easily. He is charming, good-natured, and handsome. But unfortunately, he has also slept with nearly every woman in Bone City, Michigan. Jane sees Duncan's old girlfriends everywhere, at restaurants, at the grocery store, even 3 towns away. Well, that's unfortunate. While Jane may be able to come to terms with dating the world's most prolific seducer of women, she wishes she did not have to share him quite so widely. As is everybody, I'm sure. His ex-wife, Aggie, a woman with shiny hair and pale milkmaid skin, still has Duncan mow her lawn. His coworker, Jimmy, comes and goes from Duncan's apartment at the most inopportune times. Yeah, that definitely has a Lorelai and Luke feel right there. Sometimes Jane wonders if a relationship can even work with 3 people in it. Never mind 4. 5 if you count Aggie's eccentric husband, Gary. Not to mention all the other residents of Bone City who freely share with Jane their opinions of her choices. That has a Stars Hollow feel for sure. But any notion Jane had of love and marriage changes with one terrible car crash. Soon, Jane's life is permanently intertwined with Duncan's, Aggie's, and Jimmy's. And Jane knows she will never have Duncan to herself. But could it be possible that a deeper kind of happiness is right in front of Jane's eyes? Well, yeah, even just from that blurb, I can definitely pinpoint some parts that would have a Gilmore Girls feel to it. I'm excited to read this one. I wonder if it's going to be easier read or if it's going to kind of turn into like a weird romance one. But again, it's Early Morning Riser. So I will keep you guys in tune on how that one goes. If you aren't already following my Instagram, A Book Binger, that's where I put a lot of my up-to-date books. So go over there, look at what I have read too, if I don't get to it on this podcast. But I will definitely be putting this one on there when it comes on its rotation. There has been this series that I have fallen in love with this summer. It's called Shadow and Bone. My very best friend, she recommended this series to me. I remember when she started reading it, she was ecstatic about it. Couldn't stop talking about it, couldn't put it down. And I am not a fantasy reader. It just doesn't appeal to me. I don't have that imagination and creativity to make up these worlds in my mind. I get lost really easily. For example, when I picked up Dune, it was so hard for me to understand what they were talking about. It was like gibberish. I tried so hard to keep track of everything and to keep going. But eventually, I was probably 3 chapters in, I had to put it down. I had no idea what was going on. So that's how I feel about fantasy. Every time I've tried, I just can't get into it. But I was at Costco and I saw that this trilogy was on sale. So I thought, well, if she loves it, I trust her, I'll try it. And I was hooked. It is beautiful. The way that she created this world, to me, she did a fantastic job of explaining it. And she also created a diagram of the country she created in the front. So I was able to go back to that whenever they were talking about places they were traveling to, where they were from, where, all these things. I was able to go back to her little drawing, as well as she created a little list of the race that she had created. They're called the Grisha. And they're not magical per se, but they have these abilities that they can use to their benefit. And it's only, a certain amount of people. And so she would list these different types of people who can alternate different elements and other things. So I was able to refer back to that as well. And I think that just helped me to read this book a little bit better because I had that reference. So I fell in love so quickly. I've read the books, all three of them, back to back, just blew right through them because it was so good. And there is a duology right afterwards in the timeline. It comes after Six of Crows. This one has been on Bookstagram and I've seen it. And so I finished Six of Crows and I'm on the second book, Crooked Kingdom. And I'm reading this one because my friend also told me that I have to finish reading this duology before I can start the Netflix series that it's all based off of. So I'm trying to get through it, and I'm so excited to see how they have created these characters on Netflix. Because like I mentioned before, a book adaptation is so hard to follow. But she said that it was really well done. Obviously, there's stuff that they missed, but that it is worth the watch. So if you haven't seen Shadow and Bone on Netflix, this is another one I recommend reading. It's amazing. And if you have seen Shadow and Bone on Netflix, I still recommend reading it because I'm sure it's better. And I will let you guys know when I start watching it how I feel, if they did a good job, if there's things that I didn't like, things like that. Speaking of book adaptations, my last podcast episode was about Where the Crawdads Sing. And as you know, that's my favorite book, one of my favorite books, definitely top 3. And when the movie came out, I was debating on going. I had this major tug of war going on in my head. Well, if it's not good, I'm going to be so sad that I went. Well, I'll be so sad if it is good. Just back and forth for a couple days. I decided to bite the bullet and I just went. I took a friend of mine and I was blown away. I was so happy I was wrong. They did an amazing job. And I know that Reese Witherspoon had a lot to play in the part of making this movie. And people were saying that, she does a good job with all of her work. It's going to be good. And I doubted it because there's just no right way to put words on a screen. Harry Potter did a fantastic job. And I think that's one of the only ones that truly stuck to as much as they could in the movies. So Where the Crawdads Sing, the movie was great. There was stuff that they missed, or they not missed per se, but that they could have expounded a little bit more on. I do have to say, if you haven't read the book, you're probably going to be confused in the little parts in the movie. So that was also kind of disappointing for my friend who hadn't read the book, but I think it was an amazing job. So another great example of a well done book adaptation. And I really want to hear what you guys thought of it too. I had somebody reach out to me and tell me that she read the book because of my recommendation and because I told her to read it before the movie, and she was very grateful she did. So that also makes me really happy when I hear stuff like that, because it makes me put together this content a little better and make it for you guys, because this is what it is. It's for you guys. So please tell me things that you're reading. Tell me things that you agree with me on or disagree with me on. Which leads me to my next topic. There are some books that I read this summer that I did not enjoy. And one of the books is called The Guest Book, and it's by Sarah Blake. I was excited to read this book because it's a bigger book, and I had a long flight ahead of me, and there was a couple delays. So this bigger book, it kind of had that beachy theme when I first picked it up. They're from New York, they have old money, and they buy this island, and they have a summer home that they go to every year. So the reason I didn't like it was because the characters were kind of dull, and the family secret had just kind of really annoying aspects to it. There was a part where the family secret like totally went off in another direction, and then that created a long diversion. And then at the end, it kind of all came together, but just like very quickly. In the very last chapter, it all resolved itself. And that was kind of annoying because I spent so much time reading this thick book. And I should have put it down sooner. But I'm the kind of person that doesn't really put down a book when I start it. And that's a downfall, I think, because I could have read probably a better book and been happier. So the guest book by Sarah Blake, not my favorite. I'd probably give it 2 stars. It really wasn't that good. Another book that I read over my vacation, I took it to New York with me, and this one might be an unpopular opinion. It's a Kristen Hanna book, which was so surprising to me because I really enjoyed some of her books. And I recently started reading her this year with The Winter Garden and The Great Alone. And those 2 books were fantastic. I loved them so much. So when I saw this book at a little free library near me, I was really excited. And it's called If You Believe. And I was really disappointed. I think because the characters, they didn't really have any involvement until the end of the book. And it was very quickly. And there was also a lot of intense sexual tension that was uncomfortable. I think it's one of Kristen Hanna's earlier books. It's not written as well as her later books. So I can kind of understand that, but I was still disappointed with that because I've really enjoyed some of her books. Another one that comes to mind, though, that I read that a lot of people raved about was The Four Winds. I didn't like that book either. I felt it was just dull. So that was also sad. I should have ended that book too, but I pushed forward because I have this hope on books that I don't read that they're going to get better at the end and it'll be worth it. But most of the time it's not. And I think that we need to speak more openly about books that we don't like and not be afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, but having our own opinions. They're healthy to talk about. And there are times where I talk about a book that I don't like and people get so worried and they're like, okay, well, I won't recommend any more books to you. And that's not what I'm trying to get at. I love book recommendations and I will try as many as I can fit in. And I'll honestly tell you too, if that just doesn't even seem interesting to me, but it's not a jab at you at all. It's just something that I think we all need to talk about openly and be honest about because it helps us grow and it helps us realize what our favorite kind of books are. And that's the most fun about reading all these books is to find those books that truly make you happy and truly take you to another place. So, all in all, there have been amazing books that I've read. Doesn't even scratch the surface on all the books that I've read this summer, but that would take way too long. So I want to hear from you guys. What books have you read this summer? What books are you currently reading? And what books do you have set on your bookshelf that you're going to read next? I really want to know. I have so many things that I'm going to be reading that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Again, go to my Instagram, A Book Binger. I put all of my recent reads, all of my current reads, and all of my next reads on there. And even just some reads that I might not get to, but that sound interesting to me. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this podcast episode of season 2. I am hoping to get out some more episodes here in the next couple weeks because the next couple months I'm going to be super busy. So I will have more content for you guys on season 2. And I am just so grateful for you guys. You have no idea how much it makes me happy when so again, just recapping everything, I am very grateful for you guys. And season 2 is going to be so fun. I have a lot of content already for you guys for the next couple weeks. So keep an eye out for future episodes. I'm going to be busy in the next couple months. So I'm going to try really hard to keep you guys up to date on my reading. I'm hoping that doesn't diminish too bad. And I want to hear from you guys. That's the best part about doing this podcast is when I get messages throughout my week and telling me what you guys are reading, or that you guys definitely loved what I recommended, or that you also recommend, another book. And it makes my heart so happy. And I'm grateful for you guys to listen to my little blabbering mouth about these books. So thank you guys so much for listening to A Book Binger, and I will see you guys next time.